Hello, I'm doing another vlog style video. I think what I'm gonna be doing this time is a little different. Not a little different, but it's something I haven't done in the history of my kind of online presence that I've had, as small as it is, but it's still something I haven't done. So I thought I would do it here. Is do a little introduction, talk a little bit about my background a little bit, and mostly the past 5 years since I've just changed the name of the channel, and the fact that the streaming that I've been doing, I did change my Twitch name to the same as this one, EJ Plymouth, and how yeah, I think I will still stream sporadically on there, but yeah, it's probably not gonna, it's definitely not a super regular thing anymore, and hasn't been for at least probably like 2 months, maybe, maybe more. Uh, but there was a time when I was regularly streaming on Twitch, and yeah, that's just not going to continue. But so I wanted to put that out there. I also wanted to put out a quick update. My last video was 2 weeks ago, and is going to, that type of video, that vlog style, talking about a current issue or something, is maybe something I'll do more of. This is kind of in the vein of that, and little update on that. It seems like Department of Education is going to be cut and not really function that well. But I don't think it's getting abolished. At least it seems right now that it's just not going to work, or it's going to be cut severely. So that's we'll see how that. I'll see how that develops. Of course, I'm interested in that. Either way, little format thing. Of course, I'm gonna suck at looking at the camera, but I moved my setup because I like to look at my OBS while I'm talking, and my OBS was on my monitor where the camera is not. So I've shifted it over, so maybe it'll actually appear that I'm a little more focused. But yeah, that's probably not gonna work that much. I do have a little topic list over here. I haven't even gotten started on that, of course, but discussion topic thing. Enjoying a Modelo here. We have a Modelo. Yeah, having a nice Modelo, and just felt the need to video post. I'm video posting, doing a little video post. So yeah, I swapped to the channel name to EJ Plymouth. I had one not mention, but someone who watches me talked about it a bit, that I'm no longer problematic anymore. Uh, that's funny. Yeah, I used to be so problematic, and now we're not. We've evolved. So I kind of wanted to talk about my background a little bit, and that I don't know, just something I never did on the with my online presence, and that I wanted to do. So I'm 29 years old currently, and I am in the United States from Ohio. So I've always lived in Ohio my whole life. I live in Northeast Ohio. I won't say I think I'll leave it at that. That's a kind of a big area, but yeah, Northeast Ohio area. Mm, that's where I've been located, where I've always been located, except for one point, which we'll talk about in the video, where I wasn't located there. But yeah, pretty much that's the main thing. And as for background, uh, went to college. I studied first to become a teacher, and then I had a little journey there, and then I decided to shift my study just to history, but wanting to focus on the history of education, the institution of education in the United States. That's what really interested me. I did some research on that, developed a there's research I wanted to do. I wanted to do more. I developed a theory, not necessarily a theory, but I applied Marxist analysis to a turn in education policy that occurred under Ronald Reagan, which is still continuing. It's still the same thing. It happened under it started with the Nation at Risk, and then it went up to through Bush and Clinton. Well, Clinton then Bush, or I should say, Bush then Clinton then Bush then Obama then Trump is a little bit of a break, but it's not that different. I mean, it's still in the vein. In the vein, it could be interpreted that it's still continuing the same way, and through what I learned about the history of education, and having already, like, before I gained some of the like cursory general information about like how the institution was established and how, I guess, the philosophies behind it were in the United States and the different points where it became a national topic, I had already, I was already essentially someone who swears by, I still do to this day, and the usefulness of Marxist analysis. And I always put my trust in that, looking at the real world, looking at, economic relationships and materialism, right? A materialist analysis, not materialism, but a materialist analysis. And it was fascinating to me how education was so, like, the arguments around it and the philosophy was so tied to the economy at different points, especially 80s onward, but even when it was talked about in relation to Germany at the turn of the 20th century. Very interesting to me. I studied it. My issue was that the history of education is sort of it's like a sub topic of history, like the discipline of history, and there's not really any, at least at the time when I was trying to get into grad school, which I did go into grad school and then I quit. I do want to talk about that, but there's not really many departments, and I ended up, let's talk about 5 years ago, because I guess that's where we're at now, is I went for a semester in grad school in New York City at a Teachers College of Columbia University. Massive mistake. Massive mistake of my life, but I guess I did learn not a lot about what I wanted to learn about, but about just how things were. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I wanted to talk about that just a little bit. I guess that's the main topic of the video, is me going to Teachers College to study the history of education, just because that phrase history of education wasn't really used that much, and so there was an advisor there who I went, and I got accepted, and it came clear to me fairly quickly that it feels like there's not a whole big audience for the subject, or that there's not a lot of, I don't know, nobody really wanted to hear what I had to say about it and how important it was and the things that were happening. There's a lot of people who were history adjacent who would say that the 80s and the 90s or whatever, and maybe there is a little something to this. It veers into not so much historical analysis, but by doing it, I'm doing more social critique, which, sure, that's fine, because it's recent. I wasn't alive during the 80s, and I certainly was not conscious during the 90s, during the mid 90s, when I was just born, a freaking baby, a big baby, and the early aughts when I was a dumb kid, and No Child Left Behind was happening and all that shit. So yeah, I guess it is more of there's a vein of it that's contemporary social critique, but it's also a historical trend and event that's happening in policy that has not been talked about that way and has not been looked at that way and has just been taken for granted. So there's that vein, and then so it's sort of sandwiched between education, this discipline, history of education. It's sandwiched between history people and education policy people. And And the education policy people are 95% vampires, right? That are deluded to the point where they don't realize that they're just like trying to pick the meat off of a decaying corpse of an institution that never really existed that much to begin with. They're just trying to suck more money out of it until trust in it continues to fail, and it can have more support for meat and blood getting sucked out of it. So that's most of the education policy people who don't really have a lot of some of them don't have a lot of historical knowledge, I would say, at all. These policy wonks. There's one class I had in particular that was just on policy, or it was like very focused on policy, and not very much history. A little bit of philosophy, but that's it. And a lot of people in there were Teach for America students. It's like, Jesus Christ, how unaware can you fucking be? How fucking clueless are you? But yeah, that's what I mean, right? There's the policy people, and then there's the history people, and the history people just don't really pay attention to the area as much, and the education policy people are have this cluelessness, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. So I went into there, and I realized pretty quickly that it was just the feeling people don't really want to listen, and I wasn't. I'd say about my advisor, bless her heart. My assessment of my who had the program as History of Education, I would say bless her heart. But there was one moment where, and it's insane that she said this, because her academic advisor previously that she had is somebody that I think I respect. I'm trying to remember. They're like I should actually look into this person. Because I haven't read any of their stuff, but I'm aware of his work, right? And he's done. He's like he does use he is a contemporary Marxist. He was at least used Marxist analysis. I don't know anything else. But she said, and she knew that I was a Marxist in general, like from a scholarly way. Like, I mean, I guess politically I sort of am too, but I'm not going to detail that too much right now, but yeah, she knew that, and there was also someone who was more inspired by Foucault or whatever that shit is, postmodern, that shit, and she had an end of one of her classes, right, where it was mostly just the student she was advising. She was talking, and she said that like using or like thinking about Marx, and she would added Foucault in there too for the other student, but I really wanted to focus on what she said about Marx. And she said that this kind of idea of like having a Western canon, I don't know why I said it like that, but I said it like a fucking Canadian, can you believe that? But she said having like a Western canon and Marx being a part of that canon, maybe that was conservative. And it was a moment where I was so shocked, because she did this at the very end of the class, right? Suggesting that Marx was conservative. And it was so shocking to me. This was 5 years ago. I did one semester, and then it was like COVID hit, and I really wanted to leave anyway. So I just went back home. But her saying that was one of the moments there that really was like, wow, and this person's a professor. Because it made me, she did make me think. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll have to think about that. And then it pretty quickly was like, she's completely wrong. How are you supposed to be like an expert in this? Like, I don't know. And it was such a strange moment for me that really, and I was kind of so flabbergasted. I didn't really have a response. I couldn't even make a response. It was like right at the end of the class anyway, where people were leaving. It was like the last comment she made before she like broke the class, and it was like, okay, I don't really know what to say to that. I first had to comprehend how silly it was, and then I had to think about it, how silly it was, and confirm to myself, okay, yeah, it is silly. The second moment that really got to me while I was there, I have to blow my nose, sorry. Let's take care of that. The second moment that got to me while I was there in New York was we do these little I don't really know how to talk. It'd be like a academic common area, like sort of next to an office, and then we would have like wine and snacks. And it was usually after these talks or discussions, and they were all, save for like one guy who talked for one moment, they were all extremely like bullshit. But there was one where this guy who had been on MSNBC or something, who was like a charter school advocate, was talking. And then afterwards, we were having the wine and snacks, which I helped set up. You know, that was my deal. Like I helped set up the stuff and attended just to, I don't know, because I didn't have anything else to do. You know, big loser. So I was there and have also free cheap wine and snacks. Kind of epic when you're a grad student. So I was just chilling. But there was a moment where the charter school guy was there, and I'm just having wine and making this stupid small talk. And there's the charter school guy, and then there's also there's like this zombie. And this was around the time of, I don't know if anyone remembers, this is like old internet lore kind of at this point, but Verit. So Verit was this really shitty system where it was like it was supposed to be a non-partial, like you would take a claim and it would give you a Verit score on if it's truth or not. I don't know, just like a stupid thing. And this guy was trying to make a website version of that, and that was like his last project. Like this guy was he was so old. He had been like 90 years old walking around in this thing. And that was his last project, was to make like a Verit type website. And it seemed to like it would function the exact same. I think his heart was in the right place, but after the failure of Verit and just all the problems with that, it was very funny to see someone just earnestly trying to do that. Especially when they're like, I mean, I'm sure he's, you know, rest in peace. I don't think he's around now. It's been 5 years. I don't think he's here. But you know, dude, rip. But having wine with this guy who has like a really stupid idea that's also his last idea, and this charter school guy, having wine with them, it sort of like hit me all at once of like, why the fuck am I having wine with this charter school guy? I hate him. I hate what he believes. I hate charter schools. I think that schools should be I think public education should be nationalized. I hate that it's local. Almost every problem is that it's from locality, and that the only like real serious reform is to fucking, you know, nationalize the fucking schools so we have a normal country, right? And here I am talking to this charter school guy who's just another policy vulture, and you know, having small talk with him. Like, fuck that. I don't want to have small talk with this guy. I don't hardly want to talk to him at all. And that kind of shocked me too. And I was really glad and relieved to come home. So yeah, that's what happened when I lived in New York. New York City. I will say about New York City, which I haven't said yet, is that I really liked the not having to have a car. I like walking. I don't like driving. I hate driving. And the transportation, you can get where you want to go, right? Obviously, it's not maintained well. It's dirty. But I will say that it's great to have. It's such a convenience. I love it. I loved it. And that was my best part. That and the food. Excellent food. Wonderful food. People were fine. And, well, I'd say on average they were fine. The people I was interacting with, maybe, you know, maybe a little interesting there, but I'd say people on the average were great, or, you know, normal, good, and food great, excellent food, excellent ability. Like, there's so much in the city, and being able to, you know, have a cool place, usually a restaurant. It'd be like, oh, I can go there, or I know how to get there, and it's not a big deal to get there. Always great. Yeah, I spent a lot of time talking about what happened 5 years ago and up to that point, and not a lot about what happened in the last 5 years. I think since this video is already like almost 20 minutes long, I'll just leave the vlog out, stop the vlog here. I don't really know. I guess vlog is just video log, which is technically what this is. It's me talking about past event that happened in my life and a little bit about myself, but I hate the word vlog. Video log is not offensive to me, but for some reason vlog yeah, not a fan. But if you listened, I guess thanks. I don't know why you would, but yeah, thanks. I'll probably come out with another one of these if I feel like it. You know, if it strikes me, I'll do it. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.